either people can come down one side or the other, because I don't know about you people, but some people still believe that the Twin Towers were controlled demolition. Some people believe they were the planes. So we can't even decide on fact that's happened in front of our eyes. We can't find the truth.
It's just a lot of nonsense.
No.
The conspiracy theories are just...
You believe that?
No,
but
it's
how
a
many people
fact.
believe it was controlled demolition?
No. 100,000, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We can't even decide about earthly things.
You're making a mistake. You're making a mistake. Let me answer that question. You're making a mistake of supposing...
It's my time, sir.
Then you get two. You can get two. But this one was asked of me, so let me answer it.
You get your opportunity, surely. Let me respond to that, yeah? And the response is, you're right. All we could do is provide good reasons. That's why I said in the beginning. We could just provide good reasons, because yaqeen, the concept of yaqeen in Arabic terminology, in Islamic terminology, which is conviction, is not a conviction of the aql, of the intellect. It's a conviction of the heart. And this is a reality of all types of knowledge, because all types of knowledge fundamentally is self-knowledge. Do you see that? That's why the Quran tells us, أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Do they not reflect within themselves? For instance, why did Stephen Law interpret the Quranic verse for mountains and assume it was about the formation of mountains, whereas mine specifically was about the form and function and gave 2 scientific papers behind it? Why did he go to that route? The reason, and let me tell you the reason he did that, because you know what, there's answers to all these questions, yeah? But we have to humble ourselves, and the reason is for that is because human beings are in a state of arrogance. That is the reality. Human beings, whether you're Muslim, atheist, whatever you are, we're in a state of ego. And that's a spiritual reality. You talk to an existentialist, they didn't even believe in God, but they had a concept of the self. What is the self? And what we need to do is understand how do we break the ego to understand where do we go when we get conclusions to life. For example, take the Big Bang as an example. Whatever conclusion you take, you could say something came from something came from nothing. Both reasonable. I could be a very good atheist. A better atheist than Stephen Law, by the way. Yes? Honestly, I do it for a living. We do these courses all the time. But why does someone take that route and not the other route? Now let me say, because it's more reasonable. But so is the other route. Because it's the state of being. It's your state of heart. That's why even in the realities in the scientific world, eugenics came about. That's a rational, reasonable conclusion in some scientific circles. Just recently, in a journal of science, they came up with a theory and a conclusion based upon results that the most intelligent people and the only intelligent people that are far more superior than anyone else is a particular tribe of the Jewish people. Why do you form those conclusions? You may say because it's the reality, it's fact. No. There's an inclination as well that guides you there. This is why the Quran, it tells us to ask for purification of the soul and the heart of the self before we even take knowledge. Because if you don't purify this, you could come up to any conclusions. Look at Hitler. How he tried to justify his philosophical realities, yeah? So the point I'm trying to make is this. How does the Quran tell us to deal with arrogance? Use 2 concepts generally. Remember where you came from. You were a baby. You couldn't even wipe your own backside. You couldn't feed yourself. You couldn't even lift your own neck up. Even before that, you were despised fluid. And now you think you could challenge everything? Also, remember where you're going. كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةَ الْمَوْتِ. Every soul is going to taste death, the Quran says. We're going to become worm buffet. That's not to fear you. It's just to show you that our egos don't mean anything. They're ephemeral. They're empty in nature. And I believe if a human being purifies themselves that way, not from a spiritual perspective, but just as a human being kills the self, because the self is like a veil that stops us from acknowledging stuff, then we won't come to bizarre conclusions. And that's the reality, because we could sit here to and fro what the Quran really means. Is it really ambiguous? Is there scope of interpretation? Going to the classical exegesis? We could do this academically. But at the end of the day, it's where your heart inclines in the first place. And that is the reality. This is why we believe that human beings are in a state of fitra, which means a natural disposition. And we believe that disposition is good. And we see world from those eyes. So I just wanted to address that. It wasn't a question. Can I get a question? I feel like I ought to respond.
It's an interesting fact that people do disagree, not so much on whether the Earth goes around the sun and so on, although they used to disagree about that. But on certain kinds of question, there are things that, when it comes to aliens, the supernatural, crystal healing, whether the entire universe is just 6,000 years old and so on, whether there's a God, you find that there is an enormous range of differing opinions. And it's tempting for some people to conclude that because there is this enormous range of opinion, that therefore the question is open. You know, it's impossible to decide. And that is not true. The fact that 100 million Americans believe the entire universe